above what they claim. Okay. Uh,
Yep.
this this is because the like in Jahiliyyah, like pre-Islamic Arabia, the pagans were saying the jinns are sons of God and the angels are the daughters of God, right?
Yep.
And I'm gonna make a reference to your belief. Okay, so you believe Jesus is the Son of God, right?
You don't need to make a reference to my belief. This doesn't help me. Could he have a
No,
son by himself, or would he need help?
he could, I guess. Yeah.
He could have a son by himself.
Not a song that does again. Like this is like not like a topic I like to talk about. Like these ifs about Allah, because see Allah could have a son and this stuff is like Allah says when you say things like that it's just I don't like saying it but it's true. So
It's not your fault, bro. Allah in the Quran, He does it Himself. He's the one who presents these ifs, these hypotheticals. The Quran addresses these things. So it's not anything that that I'm making up or that humans
yeah, I know.
nowadays is like that.
So
It's in the Quran.
yeah, I get it. So the jinns and the angels, they they indispensably they have different natures than God. Again, it's not the same nature, and to prescribe genders of life does not apply to God because God's gender neutral, right? So God's gender neutral, and He has a perfect nature.
Could he have a son by himself if he wanted to, or would he need help to do it?
And okay, if He did have a son, the son would inherit His nature, therefore be divine and be gender neutral. Okay, this is why I was referring to Jesus, right? The same thing with Jesus in your belief. Okay? However, that's not what the pagans were saying. The pagans were saying that the wings were the boys and the angels were the girls, and they had different natures. Okay? So now that,
Could he
I
have
don't
a
think.
son? Could he have a son by himself, or would he need help?
Where he can so to have it depends. Um, he could have a son that inherits his nature by himself. He couldn't have a son that doesn't inherit his nature by himself.
Okay,
Because
so he
the
could
son
have a
doesn't
son that inherits his nature.
hmm?
He could
Sorry?
have a son that inherits his nature by him. You're saying he can have a son that inherits his nature by himself.
Um, possibly, yeah.
Where does the Quran say this?
The Quran doesn't say it, but yeah, Allah is more powerful, so it can. The Quran doesn't say he can't.
No, because the Quran says something very explicit. See, what you said the Quran doesn't say. What you just said, the Quran doesn't say that. But the Quran does make it clear that he can't have a son unless he has a wife.
Okay, again, he's addressing people who are saying the son or the daughter do not inherit his nature. So he would need a wife for them to inherit that nature from.
They don't make a distinction between natures or whatever. They're just ascribing him children. And
Okay,
his reputation isn't about.
do not angels
Hold on, my
are.
brother. His refutation isn't about the nature of the son that he has. It's about him having a son, period. Whether he has a son at all. That's his refutation. And his refutation is, I don't have a wife. I don't have a spouse. So therefore, I can't have a son.
Okay, then why doesn't he say the same thing for Jesus? Okay, so in Surah Tawbah, he also addresses Christians and Jews that say Ezra is the son of Allah and the Messiah is the son of Allah. Okay, why doesn't he use the same refutation there?
All right, say that again. You broke up really bad for me.
Well, sorry, man. So in Surah Tawbah, Allah talks about the Jews at the time of Muhammad, yeah, and the Christians. Okay, so the Jews at the time of Muhammad, we have hadiths of them saying Ezra is the son of Allah, and of course the Christians that say the Messiah is the son of God, right?
Yeah, I would like to see. That's besides the point, but I would like to see a Jewish text that says that Ezra is the son of Allah.
But there's a hadith that of the Jews saying, "How can we accept you as a prophet when you don't acknowledge that Ezra is the son of God?"
Yeah, I would have to see an actual Jewish text that says that Ezra was the son of God. I would have to see that. That doesn't exist at all.
We can go over that in a minute. Okay.
All right, cool.
Yeah. And in his response, he just says they're disparaging the words of earlier disbelievers, and Allah will condemn them, and that they're deluded from the truth.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he use the same refutation here? Why does he say they're taking from the rabbis and monks as well as the Messiah, son of Mary, as Lord beside Allah, even though they were commanded to worship none but one God? Why doesn't he, instead of saying that, say what he said in the other verse?
Doesn't have to. He condemns them as disbelievers for uttering such things. He doesn't have to use that same type of refutation against them. He doesn't have to if he doesn't want to.
Yeah,
that doesn't take away the fact that he says that he can't have a son without having a wife.
Again, he's talking about the son in the context of how they believe, like what they believe about that son.
He's talking about a son in which he says, how can I have a son when I don't have a wife? So he would need a wife in order to have the son that they're ascribing to him, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
According to his statement, he is saying that he would need a wife in order to have a son, and when he's refuting those people, right? Which means that he's not all powerful, because he would need a wife to have a son, at least even in the sense that they're saying to have a son.
Okay, so there are some things that cannot happen because it contradicts his nature.
Like what?
For example,
How does him having a son contradict his nature?
they're not getting it. Having a son that doesn't have the same nature as him, it cannot happen. Okay, so it's like, for example, we believe the Holy Spirit comes forth from from the father, meaning it would inherit the same nature as the father, right?
Yeah.
The same thing here. Okay, if God has a son, it would inherit the same nature as him. So for Allah to have a son and then for that to be a jinn, that cannot happen because jinns they do not have the same nature, or a daughter and then
So
that.
all you're saying is that if he were to have a son, it would not be a jinn or an angel. That's fine, but
For
nevertheless, he still can't do it without a wife.
we'll move on. So for him to have a son that would be a jinn and an angel, or an angel, you would need a partner that they can inherit that jinn or angel nature from.
You missed it. I think that you missed even what you said, bro. So all you're doing is just denying that a jinn or an angel is a son of Allah, which the verse doesn't even say. But no worries. He's not. It's not a jinn. The son of Allah is not a jinn or an angel. So if Allah were to have a son, it would not be a jinn or an angel. That's fine. However, for him to even have a son, he would need a spouse, according to the verse.
So again, for him to have a son that does not inherit his nature, he would need a spouse. But that son,
How can he have a son that doesn't have his nature?
sorry, what?
How can he have a son that does not have his nature?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. The spouse would have to be like a jinn. Listen, that's what I'm saying.
So Allah would be able to have a child with a jinn or an angel.
No, I don't believe that. I'm saying like for him to have a son that's a jinn, that's what would have to happen. But Allah would never have a son who's a jinn.
Yeah. So if the verse is very clear and it says that how can he have a son when he doesn't have a mate, he doesn't have a spouse? What you have to do to try to fix this is say, well, see, um, he's saying that he can't have a son that doesn't have his own nature, and these jinn and angels don't have his nature. He would need a jinn wife or an angel wife to procreate with in order to have a son that doesn't have his nature but has a jinn nature and an angelic nature. And it
Uh,
pushes. That's not what the verse says at all. It specifically says, how can he have a son, period? Not a jinn baby, not an angel baby. How can Allah have a son when he doesn't have a mate? He needs a mate to do it.
okay, again, we have to read the context. The context is that the sons are jinns.
Could he have a jinn son or an angelic son without an angel or a jinn?
No,
And why is that?
because when you are begotten to something, you inherit its nature.
No, that's not true. According to this, I'm going with you. Let's say that let's put it specifically in the context of a jinn son or a jinn or an angel son. Let's qualify it the way that you're trying to qualify it. What does Allah need in order to have a jinn son or an angel son? What does he need according to the verse?
A jinn spouse or an angel spouse.
So he can't do it by himself. He will need a jinn spouse or an angel spouse in order to have a jinn baby or an angel baby, right?
Yeah, there's no
So he's
problem with
still
that.
not all powerful. He's still not all
Okay,
powerful.
uh, you know what? If that doesn't make him all powerful for you, I'm fine with that. If that's your conclusion, I'm fine. I can believe that, but then I'm gonna have to make you hold your beliefs to that same standard. Is that fine?
I think that you need to. What does it mean to be all powerful, bro?
Um, it depends. Power over what? Like when we say Allah is all powerful, we mean He has all power over His creation.
Does Allah have all power over everything, or are there some things that Allah does not have power over?
And He has all power inside His nature, which He tells us about in the Quran.
So, what is an example of something that Allah does not have power over?
He doesn't have the power to cease existence.
All right, so those are logical contradictions, things that are not it, right? You can't contradict himself. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying. All right. So
he can't contradict His nature.
you can't contradict his nature. Those are logical contradictions. But we understand that. That doesn't mean that he doesn't
Yeah.
have power. That means it's okay. So that's actually a testament to his power and his consistency within his nature. Now, can you explain to me? Because it sounds like what you're saying is having a son goes against his nature. Is that what you're saying?
Having a son that does not inherit His nature goes against His nature.
Where does the Quran say that?
I'll tell you, okay? So the Quran says Allah is perfect, all powerful, all of these attributes, right? And those 99 attributes that the Quran gives Allah, does it didn't have that? No. Okay? So we both know when someone's begotten something, they inherit his nature. Okay? This is in your belief, we see this in human
Can you show, brother? Can you just show me where the Quran says that it goes against Allah's nature? Now it doesn't have to say it in these exact words, but just show me where this idea is, where it is a logical contradiction. It's impossible for Allah to have a son that does not share his nature. That goes against his nature. Can you show me that in the Quran?
It's a conclusion I come to using logic.
Say that again.
It's a conclusion I come to using logic.
So it's not in the Quran and the Sunnah or anything, huh? Or the tafsir, nothing.
I can probably find it in the tafsir.
You just made it up. You should read Ibn Kathir's tafsir on this. Gotta be careful with how we make up stuff about the texts, man. Because then you'll be going into bid'ah, innovation, which leads to misguidance, which then leads to hellfire. That's what Muhammad says. I see the rest of you guys. I'll be letting you guys up in a little bit. Khalid and Hamza, I'll let you guys up in just a few minutes. Life, do you mind streaming this if you're not busy?
Okay.
All right. So where does the Quran say what you said?
No, it's in tafsir.
Okay. What tafsir says what you said? So it's not in the Quran. It's not in the Hadith. Now we got to go to the tafsir.
Okay. So if there's one present with tafsir. Yeah, because we use tafsir. What's the problem?
So what tafsir says what you said? That Allah can have a son that
تفسير الطبري.
huh?
تفسير الطبري.
All right, so can you read it where he says that Allah can have a son that's his nature?
It doesn't say Allah can have a son that's in his nature. It says Allah can't have a son that isn't in his nature.
So where does I need you to read it out for me now?
Okay. This is what Tafsir al-Tabari says. It's in Arabic. Wait, let me just translate it real quick.
Yeah, put in Google Translate or something.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, it feels good out here.
Okay. So here's what it says. Scholars interpret this verse as a direct refutation of polytheistic beliefs and any anthropomorphic conceptions of God. In the context of pre-Islamic Arabia, many people believed in gods who had offspring and partners. This verse asserts that such jinn-like attributes would not apply to God's offspring.
So where does he say what you said? He said.
Sorry, what?
Where does it say that what you said? He said that Allah can't have a son that doesn't have his nature.
It says that this verse asserts that jinn-like attributes would not apply to God's offspring.
Go on, because you said that Tabari says that Allah cannot have a son that did not inherit his nature. Where does he say that?
Yeah, exactly. He says the verse asserts that jinn-like attributes, a jinn nature, does not apply to an offspring of God.
No, he says jinn-like attributes, the things that jinns do, does not apply to him.
You know, an attribute.
He does not say. You said that he says that he cannot have a son that does not have his nature, and yet we went to Tabari and he doesn't say that.
Attributes make up nature.
Oh, come on, man. Look, bro, I think that an easier thing to do here would be to just concede and say, you know what, yeah, based on this, just keeping it simple and sticking with what the Quran says, the book that I love, the book that I believe in, the book that I uphold, the book that I believe is uncorrupted, simple, eloquent, and preserved. It's pretty clear. Allah cannot have a son because he doesn't have a spouse, he doesn't have a partner, there's no one equal to him.
Have a son that is not Allah cannot have a son, but any attributes or any nature.
That's what it says. How can he have a son when he doesn't have a mate. So in order to have a son, what would he need? A mate. It's really that simple, bro. It's not hard.
You cannot have a son that's a jinn.
But he can have a son that's God, right?
The Quran doesn't say he can.
No, use your logic, Roger. He can have a son that's God, right?
Maybe.
Huh?
Maybe. Yeah, maybe.
You said maybe? No, it is either he can or he can't. Can he have a son that's God?
No, he told me he doesn't.
I know that. I know. He says he doesn't. I'm not asking if he does or doesn't. I'm asking, can he? Can he have a son that's God?
I don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
He could have. Okay.
He could. So he could have a son that is God.
I don't know. Maybe.
You just switched it, man. I'm confused. Can he do it or not? Because you said that he can't. He can only have a son that inherits his nature. He cannot have a son that doesn't inherit his nature, like a jinn or an angel. So can he have a son that is God?
I don't know. Maybe. I don't believe it befits His Majesty, but maybe.
You believing whether it befits his majesty or not is non-consequential to the question, my brother. Remember, you're using your logic. You're using your logic. So you said that it's not possible. It goes against his nature for him to have a son that does not inherit his nature. But he can have a son. It does not negate him. It doesn't go against his nature for him to have a son that does inherit his nature. That's something he can do.
Thanks to you.
Huh?
What difference does it make to you?
Well, it makes a huge difference. You'll see once you answer the question. Can Allah have a son that is God? Based on your logic.
I'm gonna say no. I don't think give a reason.
All right, no worries. So notice how you say no literally destroys the entire, maybe 25 minutes that we've been talking, because you tried to build a case that, well, no, this is talking about that Allah can't have a son that is not inherit to his nature, that it doesn't inherit his nature. That's a jinn baby or an angel baby. He can have a son that inherits his own nature, but he can't have a son that doesn't inherit his nature. He would need a jinn spouse or an angel spouse to do this, which goes against his nature to do. But he can have a son that inherits his own nature. He's just above doing that. Okay. That was your entire backing of your argument.
No, I'll say.
So do you wait? Let me land this. That was your entire backing, your entire foundation to the argument that I'm saying that Allah can't have a son without a spouse. You're saying no, he can't have a specific son without a specific type of spouse. A jinn baby with a jinn spouse, an angel baby, an angel spouse. But you try to hold on to another way that he can't have a son. But now you just erased that. You just said that Allah also cannot have a son that inherits his own nature.
Okay.
So even still, your God is not all powerful.
Okay, wait. If Allah were to have a son, it will inherit his nature. Now, and you know my other point. If Allah were to have a son that wouldn't inherit his nature, like a jinn, he will need a jinn spouse. Okay. Now, so the issue is Allah isn't all powerful because he cannot have a son regularly. No, then baby, no. Okay. So for Allah to have a son, that's his nature, and part of his nature is that he's eternal, right? But to eternally beget a son, the son would have to eternally, like, I guess, be eternally begotten to him, right?
Exactly. For him to have a son that inherits his nature, it would have to be an eternal begetting, an eternal procession.
Yeah,
You're right.
so eternally caused, right?
Yeah, an eternal cause, an eternal causation.
Yeah, I know that's your belief in Father and Son. So, then, like, you'd have to refer to the beginning of time. In the beginning of time, for God to cause him to happen, if he's caused, then he couldn't have existed before the Father caused the Son.
If there's an eternal causation, then there is no point in time where it began, right?
Yeah, but I guess doesn't that create a bit of a contradiction between them?
Oh, absolutely not. Like, for example, and you probably heard this before because you sound like you've talked on these subjects. Imagine we got the sun, right? Imagine that the sun in the sky is eternal.
The sun and the radiation of the rock?
No, just the light. Just how the sun brings forth light. The sun, as long as the sun is the sun, it brings forth light, right?
Yeah.
All right. Now imagine the sun is eternal.
Okay.
Will there ever be a time where that light that comes from the sun ever came to be, ever began? If the sun itself is eternal.
I'd have to let me think about that.
Now think about it. Think about it. It's an interesting thought. If the sun was eternal, the light that the sun brings forth, the light that the sun emits, will it ever have begun to emit light? Will there ever have been a time where the sun was not emitting that light? The answer would be no.
Yeah.
As long as the sun is the sun, it produces light.
Yeah, because I get that the sun causes the light, but the thing about that is that you can't create a distinction between they are eternally attached as well. Like, which wouldn't be the same thing because how do I explain this?
All I want you to do, my brother, to keep it simple, is focus on the principle of eternal causation. That's all I want you to focus on. That's the only analogy that I'm drawing with this. Nothing else is an eternal causation. The sun, as long as it's the sun, emits light, always. It ain't the sun if it doesn't emit light. So if it doesn't emit light, it's a dead sun. It's a dead star. All right. But so we're talking about a sun that is eternal. If the sun is eternal, then its light would also be eternal, right?
Yeah.
So that is an example of an eternal causation. The sun causes light. It brings forth light. If the sun is eternal, then it eternally brings forth light. Similar to the Father and the Son. If God were to bring forth a son from his own essence, this action, this operation would be an eternal causation. There won't be a point in time where this didn't happen or it began to happen. It's necessary.
Oh, just give me a minute to think about this, man. This is
Sure. It's a deep thought, but it's good. You know. It's a deep thought, but it's pretty good. Now remember, I only drew that analogy to highlight the principle of eternal begetting, eternal causation. Nothing else. Exactly, little dear. Which is why my argument against the Allah of the Quran stands. The God of the Bible is able to have a son in and of himself with no help, not depending on anyone. He can eternally beget a son from his own essence. But Allah needs a spouse to have a son. He depends on someone outside of himself to do it. Telling you, man. It's good stuff right here, man.
okay. Yeah. So, I just want to make sure I understood this, right? So, if the Son representing the Father is eternal, and the light it gives off representing the Son is also eternal, the light is caused by the Son, but is also co-eternal with it, right?
Sorry, I was distracted. Give me 2 seconds. I'm distracted.
Yeah, that's right.
Dude, life. When I said stream this, I said on my channel, dude. Well, I didn't say on my channel. I was just, my goodness, man. Lord have mercy. At least double stream it. Goodness. Oh, no, all right, sorry. What did you ask?
Okay, so I want to make sure I understand it. So the Son is representing the Father and is eternal, and the light it gives off representing the Son is also eternal.
Yeah.
Okay, and the light caused by the Son is also co-eternal. Okay, I guess. I'd have to say then the light is dependent on the sun. So if light is caused by the sun, it implies a dependence of light on the sun. So if the sun is caused by the Father, it means that the sun is dependent on the Father.
Yeah, there is what is called a codependency or interdependency within the nature of God. The three persons are interdependent upon each other. But to be a dependent being would mean that you have to depend on something outside of yourself in order to, be or exist, right? But the Son is not depending on anything outside of his own nature to exist, because his nature is shared with the Father. He has the same nature as the Father. So it's not anything outside of his own being that he's depending on. But with Allah, he'll be depending on a spouse that's outside of himself.
Okay. So is the Father independent as well?
There's an interdependency. So in order to be a father, like for example, do you have kids, or you sound like young actually? Do you have any kids?
No.
All right, are you the oldest? You're the oldest in your family?
I'm a younger sibling.
Your youngest, okay. How old is your oldest sibling?
He's 21.
21, okay. All right. How long has your father been a father?
Wow, it's 21 years.
21 years. How old is your dad though?
He is 56.
56. So out of his 56 years of living, only 21 of those years has he been a father. And this identification of being a father is dependent on him having children, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to the Heavenly Father, he has always been the Father. There's never been a time where he hasn't been the Father. He's always been the Father. He doesn't change. So this would mean that the Father has always had his Son. So the Father is dependent on the Son in order to have the identification of the Father.
Okay, I'm not talking about his identity. I'm talking about his personhood. Like,
That's who he is. That's who he is. He is the Heavenly Father, which is, based on his relationship with the Son. Relationship with the Son.
but I was about to say, isn't his fatherhood distinct from his personhood?
That's who he is as the person.
Yeah, I know, but he can exist as the same person without being the father.
No, he can't. That's who he is by necessity. Is the Father. He's always been the Father. Being the Father is his, isn't he? His necessary.
Did he choose to cause the sun?
It's necessity. Does God choose to be all knowing?
Okay, I get it. Yeah, that's okay. Okay. So then I'll have to say dependence. Okay, I get that. Like the interdependency. That's
Interdependency.
then I'd have to say like uh 1 second.
Okay. Somebody block life. Dude knows that I stream on Mondays and is gonna stream on his channel. How does that work? Somebody block life. Mods on Life's channel on GL 2.0, go ahead and mute life in the comment section. If you are on GodLogic 2.0 and you're a mod on Life's channel, mute him and block him, please. Matter of fact, let me go ahead and get started on my copyright strike. Let me go ahead and reach security. Bypass the firewall. There is a channel that's stealing my content. He knows that I go live on Mondays. And when deciding to streamed on his own channel. He is a jahil. Please report this channel. Yeshu Akbar. Hopefully we'll get that squared away. Hopefully we get that squared away.
Okay. I just have one more thing that I think makes this like sort of inconsistent. So the analogy. So in like our human understanding of causality, cause typically precedes like the effects, right, in time. So the concept of something being caused inherently is just sort of a sequence, I guess, right? Doesn't which I guess also conflicts with the idea of both being the with the idea of both the cause and effect being eternal.
How,
Like,
how does that relate to the analogy that we brought?
what I'm trying to say is like no, because if you have a cause, right, sun wouldn't like the sun precede the light, like
Not if the sun is eternal and by necessity brings forth light. We already got past this, man.
uh, I don't know, man. I'll think about it.
Think about it and then come back to me, man. I enjoyed this talk with you.
Right.
Well, take care of yourself.
I'll come back up later. See.
Okay. Peace. All right. Where is Khaled? Oops. I guess Khaled didn't want to come up. It didn't work. Arsalan's been waiting. Arsalan, are you Muslim, man?
Hello. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you better now. You Muslim? Better now. You Muslim?
I am. I'm Muslim. What was that?
You have an echo.
Oh, that echo. Okay. 1 second. Let me take it off my car. Okay. Wait a minute. Mic check. 1, 2. How we sounding?
Testing. All right.
Okay. Good. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good. All right. So your topic says Allah is not God.
That is correct. Changed my mind. I don't think he's all powerful, bro.
You don't think he's all powerful? Okay, I heard you talking to the last kid. You're saying basically Allah says he needs a wife
In order to have a son, yeah.
in order to have a son, right? So sorry to laugh. It's just kind of funny to me because
it's funny. It is.
Yeah. The thing is you have to define like what a son is. You know what I mean? So a son would be an offspring. So in the Quran, Allah says he has no offspring. And then he asked this question, why would I have a kid? I don't have a wife. This doesn't make sense. Like, it's a rhetorical question, basically. Like, it's like saying, it is. It's like saying, does Allah have a helicopter? Did he make a helicopter? Yeah, he can make a helicopter, but will he? Does he have a helicopter? You know what I mean?
Notice how I'm not. My argument isn't. Does he have a son? Will he have a son? Right. That's not my argument. My only argument is based on capability. Can he do it if he wanted to? So like with the helicopter thing, he doesn't have a helicopter. Probably won't have a helicopter. But can he have a helicopter if he wanted to? I think we would both say yes.
Right.
The question is, he have a son.
So it's literally the same thing. Can he have a son? Yes. Does he need a son? No. Does he need a helicopter? No.
So can he have a son by himself, or would he need help?
He could have a son by himself.
So then, when he's responding and refuting the idea that he has a son to the pagans who are saying that he has children, why does he then say, how can I have a son when I don't have a mate?
Because in their understanding, in order to have a child, to have offspring, you need a mate. So he's saying to them, who's my mate?
Right. So he's saying...
I'm not saying I need a mate. In that verse, it doesn't say I need a mate.
Well, let me ask
saying,
you,
according to your understanding, this is the thing. Muhammad is...
Hold on. If I said, how can I drive the car when I don't have the keys? What am I saying that I need in order to drive the car?
You're not saying you need it. You're saying I don't have the keys. You could hotwire it. You don't need the keys.
Based on my statement.
Right.
If I say, how can I drive the car when I don't have the keys? According to my statement, what am I saying I need in order to drive the car?
So it would be the assumption would be you need the keys based on our understanding of how cars work.
Based on my statement.
No, based on the understanding. So listen, if you were talking to, hear me out. If you were talking to the Kia boys, listen.
Got a very short time with me, man. I can't have
No. Don't run.
A low level of logical conversation like this. I can't do it for so long.
Don't run. Listen, if we were talking to the Kia boys and you said, how can I start this car? I don't have a key. He's going to say, I got you.
Yeah. He's going to say, I got you. Yeah, so I got you, bro. I got you. Let's say I got you. Yeah. There's an echo, Khaled.
Hey, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for letting me join. Okay. So I think there's two ways we can go about this. I can give you my response to your direct question, which is, or direct statement, which is Allah is not God. Or I can respond to the argument you've been making with guests about him not being able to have a son. So, and in such proving he's not all powerful, and in such proving that he is not God. So which direction would you prefer we take? Happy to go either way.
I'm saying that he's not God because he's not all powerful. So you can respond to the argument directly.
Okay, that's fine. So let's start with your questioning. Your question was, can Allah have a son?
Yes.
My response is, Allah is all powerful, and if he chooses to have a son, he can. However, he has taught us that it is completely against his nature, completely against his majesty, and therefore it will never happen.
So based on that, having a son goes against Allah's nature, but he can do it. He can go against his nature if he wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same question. Can God make an unmovable stone? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That question in itself is it is a paradoxical question, right? Like I would ask you the same. Can the Christian God make an immovable stone? Because the answer, let's say you said yes, he can make an immovable stone. Your response. Go ahead.
I'll tell you how I'll answer this, okay? As a Christian, we don't believe that God can go against his nature. So we don't believe that God can contradict it. So, no, the Christian God.
Sorry, say that again. You believe that God can what?
He cannot contradict his nature. So, the Christian God cannot create a rock so heavy that he himself cannot lift it. That is a contradiction because he's all powerful. There's nothing he cannot lift, right? So he is consistent within his nature. He is the consistency and truth in reality, and therefore cannot contradict himself. The question within itself is a contradictory question, right? So it's
exactly. And I would say I would have that same response, right? In that God would not have a son because it contradicts his nature. What we should really be speaking about is why does it contradict his nature, and does that even make sense? That's the true conversation we should be having.
Well, this is what I ask. You have to establish that the Quran says that. So first, can you show me that the Quran says that having a son goes against his nature? Now, specifically,
I'm
familiar with what the Quran says, especially on this topic. So I don't want us to waste time with stuff that I know may come up. So don't bring me something that says it doesn't befit him, because something not befitting something or someone doesn't mean it goes against their nature. Like it goes against the core of their being. But befitting has to do with
that's
status.
your opinion.
Well, no,
that's an opinion.
No,
that's
status.
Not a fact. That's an opinion.
No, it is. Befitting has to do with status. Like, for example, does it befit a king to sweep and mop the palace?
A king that is humble and a servant of his people, because he is a man king. Yeah, I don't see how it doesn't befit him.
It doesn't
but you can make
him off the palace, because that is the servant's job. It's not his job. Does he befit a CEO of a company to be working at the desk as a telemarketer trying to get leads for customers?
I've done it, and I own a company. And I did it to teach my people. I did it to teach my people and to show an example of how it's done. But we're not talking about people, we're talking about God, right? But let's go back to your question about what it says in the Quran, what is in.
For us to deal with this, we have to be able, bro, to deal with this stuff honestly. We can't be disingenuous about this and expect a fruitful conversation. You know what I'm saying? There's certain.
So how am I being disingenuous?
I think that there are certain things that are just common sense that we both know, that I think that because of this conversation, you won't submit to certain things. Like, you and I both know that it does not befit the CEO of the company to come in Monday through Friday and work at the desk as a telemarketer.
That's true. Monday through Friday, every day, it doesn't befit him. Certain circumstances, it can, and I've explained why. Now, let's go back to your question, okay? Because I am trying to be genuine and not really trying to hold a debate. I'm trying to give you my perspective through my life growing up as a Muslim, right? And being educated on Islam, right? My perspective is this. God in the Quran says, there's a chapter in the Quran, it's called the chapter of sincerity. It's 4 short verses where God clearly defines himself to us in words that we as humans can understand, right? And that the first verse is that God is only one, i.e., there cannot be more than one God. If there were more than one God, then those beings are not God because they are matched, they have rivals, and they have individuals that might be able to overpower them. God also says in that verse, or in that chapter, he does not beget and he is not begotten, because if he were to beget a son, then that son could one day match, equal, or surpass him, and God is unsurpassable. And it's further substantiated by the third verse, or the fourth verse, which clearly states, and there is nothing equal to or like him. So God very clearly defines who he is explicitly, and if he were to have a son, it would contradict the nature of the definition of God, which is he is one and only, cannot be matched, cannot have partners, and is all powerful, while everything comes to him as a slave. Further in the Quran, he states that...
Pause, gotta address that. So let me just go with you then. Because again, we don't have a verse where the Quran says that having a son goes against the nature of Allah. But let's go with you on that. Let me grant you that it goes against the nature of Allah. Well, Allah himself says that he can go against his own nature. He says that if he wanted to have a son, he could choose any among his creation. That's chapter 39, verse 4. So if he wanted to have a son, he could go against his nature and have a son. He would just need help to do it.
I said that already. No, he never said he needed help to do it. He never said that. So,
okay. So you grant that already.
You're referencing a chapter 6, verse 1, right?
You're breaking up.
Yeah, you guys have discussed that today, but I don't think that guy understood. Sorry, go ahead.
You're breaking up. You got.
What were you saying?
There's a little delay. You good now?
All right. Is this any better?
Yeah. It's better. So,
is this any better?
Yeah, it's better. So
I got more than one bar now.
Yeah, good. This is where we're at now. So you've already granted that Allah could go against his nature and have a son. So going on a spiel of how having a son goes against his nature is irrelevant since he can do it anyway. So I like that would be a waste of our time breaking down how having a son goes against his nature in light of our argument here. Our argument is, could he do it or not? The answer is yes. Fine. My problem is that he would need help to do it. You say no. So obviously this is where 6101 comes into play. He says, how can he have a son when he doesn't have a mate?
Well, you have to understand the context in which that verse came down and who that verse was addressing. That verse was not addressing Christians, nor was it addressing Jews. It was not addressing the people of the book. That verse was addressing the polytheists of Mecca at the time. So the polytheists of Mecca at the time attributed children to God through spouses that God would have. Okay. So God is saying, hey, you're saying I have children with spouses, but I do not even have a spouse. Okay. Another thing that you also have to be clear about if we want to be genuine is that verses come down in a context, and they come down, especially in the Quran, because it was revealed over 23 years, as non-believers would spit arguments at the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, God would come down with a verse refuting their arguments. So that verse was not addressed at Christians, nor did that verse mean that God was essentially admitting that he would need a spouse to have a son. A very clear example of that is that God gave Mary Jesus, and she did not have son. Huh?
We got to deal with one thing at a time. You're saying a lot. Let's do it one thing at a time.
Okay, I'll stop there. Yeah.
Can you provide for me a reference that has the pagans saying that Allah has a spouse and had children with her?
Can I provide you a reference? From where? The Quran or from Jahiliyyah times?
Anywhere.
I'm sure I can, because I've been taught it and I've heard it, but at this moment, no.
No worries.
But if you look at the verse before, if you look at verse 6, 100, it is...
The verse before addresses the claims of the pagans.
Polytheists, not Christians.
It addresses the claim of the pagans, and not a single time does it say that they are accusing Allah of having a partner and then having a child with that partner. The Quran doesn't say that. It just says that they're ascribing to him children. So he refutes this idea that he has children by saying he doesn't even have a spouse. How can I have a son when I don't have a mate?
Because
so
because a child, right, is a creation of God. Okay, just like he created men, he created women, he created different species of animals. He also created. What's that?
Are we the children of Allah?
No, that is in our belief. That is blasphemous. We are not the children of Allah. We are the slaves of Allah. He is the master. It's a master-slave relationship, not a father-son relationship.
So a child is not simply a creation of Allah, because we're his creation and we're not his children. So
that's not what I said.
I know I didn't. What you said is that a son would be a creation of Allah. That's what you said.
Yeah, but you didn't let me finish my point. That my point was God created, right? Just like he created men and women, he also created children, descendants of men and women. And therefore, he created the rule that for you to be the child of someone, you have to be birthed by that individual. Okay? She has to be a female that gives birth to you. Okay? Two,
how does that relate? Please.
So Adam, because it does relate to Allah, because it relates to the verse where he's making the argument, I have set the rules. I have stated that for you to be the child of someone, you must first have been given birth to by a woman, by a female. And therefore, how can I have children when I've set the rules? How can you attribute children to me when I do not have a spouse? I do not have a partner to birth that child. So because I've created that rule, not because I can't do it.
Well, no, that means he can't do it. If he's the one who
he chooses not to.
Hold on a second. If he's the one who set the rule that in order to have a child, you need a mate, so therefore he doesn't have a child because he doesn't have a mate.
But if he chose to change the rule, yes. But if he chose to change the rule, he could. There's a difference between asking what Allah is willing to do and what Allah can do.
Okay, let's deal with this directly. He says, how can I have a son when I do not have a mate? So according to his statement, what does he need in order to have a son?
No, according to his statement, based on the rules that he has created and set for us in this physical world, it is illogical for you to attribute children to him. It's a rhetorical statement.
Why? Based on the statement, based on this question, why is it illogical to attribute a child to him? Why?
But I can throw that same argument as you. Why can't
please answer the question. Why is it illogical based on the question, based on the verse? Why is it illogical to attribute children to Allah? What is the reason why it's illogical based on that verse?
Why is it illogical to attribute children to Allah? Because he says that for you to be someone's child, you must first be birthed.
He doesn't say anything like that.
That's what it means. You're asking me the interpretation of the verse.
I'm not asking you to interpret anything. I'm asking you to let the verse speak for itself and to use your reasoning and logic and honesty to come to a logical conclusion based on what the verse says. You're not adding to it or interpret. No, none of that. I don't like to do that. I like to let the verse speak, and I like to let the verse have its own logical conclusion. He's refuting their accusation that he has children, and it's illogical for them to ascribe to him children. Correct. Based on the verse, why is that?
Because he does not have a spouse.
Beautiful. So him not having a spouse makes it illogical to think that he has children because he can't have children without a spouse.
No, because God would not have children. Okay, there's a difference between.
It doesn't say would not. Please, and the only reason I'm cutting you off is because you're not dealing with the verse as it is. It doesn't say how would he have a son when he doesn't have a wife. It says how could.
You said
how can.
Yes, it is a rhetorical argument. Again,
it's a rebuttal.
It's a refutation. It's a refutation of what they're saying, but you cannot connect that to his inability to have children. You cannot say.
What's the point of the rebuttal? Why would Allah use a rebuttal that doesn't work? Why would he use a refutation?
It does work. For you, it doesn't work. For you, it doesn't work because it wasn't addressing you. For you,
it works. Khaled, you're missing it again. For me, it works. It's a logical refutation to people who is ascribing him children. It's a refutation saying, I can't have kids because I don't have a mate.
But you're not listening to me. I am telling you, God can do whatever he wants. He can have children, whether he has a mate or not. He can have children. I have been telling you for the past 10 minutes, he chooses not to. It's a choice, right? Just like your God could have atoned for human sin by being merciful and forgiving and not requiring that his son be tortured for that forgiveness.
Brother, so I gotta cut you off again because now you're trying to escape instead of dealing with the point here.
No. I'm not trying to escape. I'm mirroring your argument.
Respectfully.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
If you're gonna mirror my argument, Khaled, if you're gonna mirror my argument, do it accurately. Don't bring up some false analogy to get away from the point being made here. Deal with the point. If you're going to bring up an analogy, I have no problem with that. Make sure it's accurate, please. So with Allah giving a refutation to these people that he has children, his refutation is, how can I have a son when I don't have a mate?
That's one of many, by the way, in the Quran. That's one of many refutations in the Quran. That's the one you're choosing to discuss today.
Is it a valid refutation?
Yeah, it's a very logical and valid refutation. My argument is not that.
Stop. So it's true then that Allah cannot have children without a mate. That's why the refutation works.
No, I do not believe that. Right? I believe that refutation is made, again, and I've explained it to you, and I'd like you to address the point that I'm making and not go back to the same question, if you could, okay? The point is very common sense and very simple. God states, I have set rules. My rules are X. I will not break those rules. Do I have the ability to break those rules? Absolutely. I choose not to because it does not befit my nature.
What's to the Quran?
I'm not adding, to
the Quran. He never says anything about these set rules on mating and having children. He never says that.
I am pulling a logical conclusion from the statements made in the Quran, my friend.
No, you're making stuff up. You're making stuff up.
What is it that I've made up?
You're making it up that Allah has stated and set rules for how to have children. This is the only way to do it, and therefore there's no other way.
So what is there another way to do it? Is there another way to do it?
Hey, that's up to your Quran.
No, I'm asking you, is there another way to have children outside of birthing them? Is there another way to have children?
Yeah, there's adoption. There's precession.
See, but we don't believe, when you adopt someone in Islam, we don't believe they become your biological child. We're talking about biological children.
I never said that they become a biological child. They become your child, though, nonetheless. You can have children without sexual intercourse. Even Mary had a child without sexual intercourse.
But she gave birth to that child. I never brought sexual intercourse into it.
The power of God.
Correct. And I believe that, but I never brought sexual intercourse into the definition of having and I'll use biological child since you wanted to jump off into adoption.
It's all good, bro. It's all good.
You know, my last point.
Thank you for participating, because you're not really dealing with the argument anymore. Thank you for participating, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. Take care.